Like, when I talked to Mike Paulus today, he said he was.
Okay.
He had confirmed that with them.
Okay.
And he had the Zoom link.
It's still early, Rose.
Yeah, okay.
7.
I can get started?
Start it up.
Okay. This is Tuesday, December 1st, 2020 meeting of the Water Pollution Control Authority and the Town Council meeting of North Branford. It's a virtual meeting. And a couple things before we get started. I want everyone to know that Michael Paulus is not here tonight, our town manager. He's had an emergency at home, so he had to leave. And we're going to try to run the meeting the best that I can. The town manager's report, that'll be left out. I have something, I'm going to replace that with Stephanie Mollix from Dana Cosgrove's Animal Shelter. Okay, let's start with a salute to the flag.
Hey, can I call you later? I'm in the.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance
And
to the United States of America,
To the republic,
for
for which
which
it
it stands,
stands,
one nation,
nation,
under
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and
Justice
justice
for
for all.
All right, Michelle, you want to do the roll call?
Absolutely. Mayor Viglione,
Here.
Deputy Mayor Zampano. No?
Not on.
Council-
No.
Okay. Counselor Angeloni,
Yes.
Counselor Diamond. Here. Counselor Judy. Counselor Fawnin,
Here.
Counselor Goode. And Counselor, yeah,
Here,
Counselor
here, Walter's
Palicia.
here.
Okay. And Counselor Palicia?
He's here.
Okay.
He's muted.
He's muted.
And was Deputy Mayor Zampano here?
He came-
Okay. All right, thank you.
Hi, Tom.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. All right, let's do the minutes from the previous meeting. I have the November 5th meeting, 2020, a special meeting at Town Council.
So moved.
Second.
All right, next,
Oh, you may vote. You gotta
Oh, you
vote.
have to.
we have to vote, I'm sorry. Michelle, can we have a vote?
Yes, with all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay,
Okay, the next is November 10th, 2020, WPCA and Town Council meeting.
So moved.
second.
Did you get that, Michelle?
Yep, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstain?
It's a little hard for
Okay.
me here to know who's making the motion. Who's
No,
second?
that's fine.
Okay,
I can ask if I don't know.
okay.
They can say their name too. When they speak, say their name.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing. When you guys talk, please let me know who's saying what. It's kind of hard to figure out, with just hearing the voice. Okay, the next is November 18th, 2020. It was a special meeting of Town Council.
So moved.
Second.
Have a
All in
vote?
favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And abstain?
I'll abstain.
Okay.
Okay, next we have Water Pollution Control Authority agenda. Correspondence and citizen statements. Nothing. Unfinished business, there's none. New business, there's none. And then I have citizen statements and petitions. Okay, we'll go into the regular town council meeting. Reports of committees, boards, and commissions. First, I have Economic Development Commission.
Their regular meeting is next Monday night, and there is a mid-month report in our packet from Roger Solway as to what they've been doing.
Okay, thank you, Rose. Next, we have Parks and Rec.
Their meeting for November was canceled, so no report.
Okay, thank you. Next is Police Commission.
The next meeting is December 14th.
Okay, we have Fire Commission.
The next meeting is this Thursday night.
Thank you, Ron. Next, we have Board of Education and Town Council Communications Subcommittee.
No meeting.
Okay. Next is Town Planning Goals Subcommittee.
No meeting.
Oh, moving right along here.
You're good at this, Bob.
Huh?
You're good at this, Bob.
Yeah, I'm getting better. It's only been a year. Next, we have Planning and Zoning Commission.
Yeah, there was a meeting on the 19th of November. They approved an additional construction of an additional building on Aquatic Pools property for storage. And the other thing, they're working on a development plan for a 4-lot subdivision up on Parsonage Hill. And that's pretty much it. It was a short meeting.
Okay. Thanks, Tommy. Next, we have North Branford Police Department Facility and Town Center Advisory Committee.
The next meeting is December 9th.
Okay, thank you. Next is Finance Subcommittee.
The next meeting is next week on the 8th.
Okay, very good. Next, we have Ad Hoc Design Review Committee.
No meeting.
No meeting.
Okay. All right, next we have Town Manager's Report, which we're gonna skip. I talked to Mike, he'll bring all this up at the next meeting. 15th, I believe, 15th, Rose?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
What I wanna do is I wanna put Stephanie
Malkin.
Malkin.
from Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter in. Is she on?
Yep.
Yes, I am.
It's item 13A, so you want to just move it up from the agenda?
Yeah, can we do that, Michelle, please?
Amend the agenda.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the agenda to move item 13A up after item 7.
I'll second that.
Bob, First Selectman James Cosgrove is on too, so if you have any.
What'd you say, Mike?
First Selectman Cosgrove is on too.
Oh, hello, how you doing?
Great, thank you, thanks for being here.
Okay, Michelle, did you get the motion in a second?
I did. With all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Would anyone like to abstain? Okay, thank you.
Okay. Mr. Cosgrove?
Do you want me to start, actually?
Yeah, okay, sure.
Okay, so I just wanted to introduce myself. I'm Stephanie Malkin. I'm the North Branford rep on the Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter Commission. There's a lot of new faces on this screen that I haven't seen before. It's been a while since I've presented due to COVID. Joining me today are Jamie Cosgrove and Laura Bourbon, the director of the shelter. And we wanted to talk a little bit about our capital campaign that you may or may not have heard of. But before I do that, because it's been a while, I just kind of wanted to update everybody on what's been happening at the shelter. For the most part, due to the pandemic, the shelter is currently closed to the public as the staff takes all the precautions as the other town departments are doing. However, we are happy to say that adoptions are still happening. People make appointments and they come in and meet with the animals and with the staff in an appropriate and safe manner. And of course, the animal control officers are still going out on all the same calls as they always have been going out on. Just to kind of give you an idea of what that volume of calls means for the town of North Branford, in the 2019-20 fiscal year, there were 151 calls for service in the field, just in the town of North Branford, and that ranged from roaming dogs to dog bites to injured wildlife. So far in the 2021 fiscal year, through the end of September, there's been 38 calls for the town of North Branford. Throughout the course of this pandemic, Laura and her staff have worked incredibly hard to meet the needs of the communities of Branford and North Branford, and not only the animals, but the humans as well. Laura wrote a grant and received the grant. It was a COVID grant that allowed her to help North Branford and Branford residents pay for medical bills for their animals that they were unable to pay for because they were out of work due to the pandemic. We've got a pet food pantry that is open to all residents. And also during COVID, Laura and her staff and volunteers delivered not only pet food to various people and households that needed it and weren't able to go to the store, but they also delivered human food and went grocery shopping for residents. So I believe Mike Paulus had received some really positive correspondence from town members that were really appreciative of this service. So with that said, at this point, we wanted to talk to everybody about our capital campaign, like I said, that you may or may not have heard of. At the current time, we have a goal of raising through fundraising $1 million towards this capital campaign. And I believe as of today, we are at about 82%. And we anticipate that we are going to exceed this goal even in the midst of this pandemic, which is really a testament to the shelter and the staff and the volunteers and the people in our community and way beyond our community that support what we do, the humans and the animals. We haven't been able to fundraise like we normally do given the pandemic, so we've had to get really creative in how we do that. We've got a rescue brew going with Stony Creek Brewery. We've got a peer-to-peer online fundraising site that hundreds of people have taken part in and done their own fundraising. So we're really grateful for the community support, Branford and North Branford. I have been involved in this process, this capital campaign process since the beginning. I've been a member of the capital campaign cabinet and also a member of the Public Building Commission. So I've been involved every step of the way. I believe Laura, I think she's in there somewhere, has a brief video. Is it a video, Laura, or just a discussion just to kind of let you know what the capital campaign is about and what our plans are for refurbishing the shelter?
Yeah, I was just going to go over some of the needs on why we're doing the capital campaign and why we're redoing the shelter. And then Stephanie hit on a lot of the points, which is great. So I'm happy to go over that if you're finished, Steph.
Sure.
All right.
You want to go first? Yeah,
if I may just first, Mayor, thank you for the opportunity for us to be here and update the council on the project and what is happening up at the shelter. As many of you are aware, the town and Branford and North Branford have had an agreement in place, I think, over 15 years, where the town provides animal control services to North Branford, as well as Stephanie touched upon, a lot of other support and projects that are related to the humane treatment of animals in both towns. This project has received an appropriation by the Board of Finance, Town of Branford Board of Finance, as well as the RTM of $2.895 million. We are, as Stephanie mentioned, there's an active capital campaign underway. I do want to just mention that I am sensitive to the fact that the town of North Branford, you have on your agenda before you a number of projects, and Branford is in a similar position. I think one thing that we do strive to is really smooth out any impacts that this project may have. And I did, as mentioned, I'm joined here with the Director, Laura Bourbon, but I have also asked our Finance Director, Jim Finch, who has a fine working relationship with your Finance Director, Anthony Esposito, as well as the Town Manager, Mike Paulus. More than happy to discuss a little bit more about that, but at this point, I'll turn it over to Laura to just give a brief overview to the council of the project. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I don't know if all of you know me, but I'm Laura Bourbon. I've been the director at the shelter going into my 13th year. I do recognize a lot of your faces, and thank you for letting me come tonight and talk about the shelter project. So the shelter has been in existence going into its 18th year, and back when the shelter was built, it was really a community coming together from all sorts of towns on the shoreline where people were fundraising to make this shelter happen. And we've taken the same approach again with this project. Some of the deficiencies that the shelter have is when the shelter was built, the ventilation systems are all contiguous. So there's no separation, which causes issues with illnesses inside the shelter for the animals. The quarantine rooms are not properly set up. Inside the lobby, we do meet and greets for animals, as well as bringing sick and contaminated animals through that same door, since there's only one entry. So there's a lot of things that we wanted to work on when we were looking at trying to redo this building and adding on. We also have limited outdoor space to do introductions, as well as the parking and driveway area have concerns as well. The building that we're going to do will double in size. It will provide different spaces for these animals to feel safe and comfortable, and also for the humans while they're there. So that's really important. And as Stephanie said, we have $1 million goal. We are at about 83% of the way to our goal, and we actually expect to exceed that $1 million goal. In addition to that, we've raised $100,000 towards our medical fund to be able to help animals that come in, whether they're hit by a car or have other illnesses. We also have a local business in town that's going to be donating 3 animal control vehicles to us. These are brand new vehicles that they're going to be outfitting for this new building and for us to use. And we also have some local businesses that we've approached that are interested in donating supplies and materials towards the construction of this new building. So as the first selectman said, we are sensitive to the fact that, you know, there's a price tag on this, and we're definitely doing everything that we can to help alleviate any of that stress. And like I said, thank you for letting me come and talk tonight. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, it's Ron
Yep.
Felicia. Do they want to just, I know this goes out on public television and Facebook and stuff like that. Are there any web links for donations or anything like that that you guys would like to know right now, just to get it out there for people that watch this?
Sure, absolutely. We have a site set up called cosgrovesavinglives.org, and people can go right there and set up their own fundraising page, or they can just donate right on that site. And you can watch the progress of where we're at as far as donations on that page as well. And there's videos and other things up on that link. And you can also go and follow our Facebook page. If you're not on our Facebook page, we have over 26,000 followers, and it's just sort of a wealth of information there. We do put up videos about the new building and a whole bunch of other projects that we're working on. So it's great to be a follower of that, because you get up-to-date information every day.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Ask what the time frame is, Bob. What's the time frame?
Mayor, just
Yeah.
one other thing I'd like to just quickly mention. Besides the capital campaign that the Dan Cosgrove Animal Shelter Commission is, and the committee is moving forward on, which so far has been successful, the town is also looking to receive energy incentives through the utility companies, which we've already started that process, as well as participating through a matching grant through Sustainable CT, which is a matching grant program. So we are looking at, again, other opportunities even outside of the capital campaign that both Stephanie and Laura just spoke about. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, there's no action on this, is there? Anthony,
Ask what the time frame is. What's the time frame they're gonna do it,
time frame for what?
the construction?
Oh, what's the time frame for the construction?
So we're hoping to break ground in March or April, and we're hoping that it'll be completed by September, October, November, somewhere around there.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you guys from Branford, we appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for the time.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next we have number 9, community events and presentations. Candy Cane Lane in lieu of annual tree lighting on 12/4/2020 at Poco Grounds from 6:30 p.m. to 8 p.m. Does anyone know anything
Yeah,
about
so
that?
this is an event that the Park and Rec Department, in conjunction with their sponsors, the North Branford Rotary Club, the libraries, I know Public Works is helping out with some things also, but you just stay in your car, so there's no contact, but they do have different stations that will be set up. You'll drive in by Wall Field and go down and around by Public Works and come up the other driveway over where the Potato Fest entrance is. And they all have different stations along the way. And also on their website is a little form that can be filled out. It's a letter to Santa, so that the kids can hand their letters to Santa at the end of the route. And then they will be getting something special in the mail back. So it's totally, you stay in your car, but they have a lot of fun things planned for that evening in lieu of their annual tree lighting. So it should be a good time for everyone.
Okay. Thank you, Rose. Next, we have citizen statements and petitions and correspondence. Nothing, Anthony? All right. We'll move into resignations and appointments. The first is resignation of Andrew Campion from Fire Commission, term to expire 12/1/2021. There's no action on that. The next is appointment of Ron Orfeo from Fire Commission there must be two Fire Commission, to replace Andrew Campion, term to expire 12/1/2021.
Mr. Mayor, it's Marie. I'd like to nominate Ron Onofrio for the Fire Commission to complete Andy Campion's term.
Joe Thornton seconding that motion.
Okay. Did you get that, Michelle?
I did.
You did?
I sure did.
Okay. All right. Any discussion? Can we have a vote?
With all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Abstain? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I would just like to thank Andy Campion for all of his years of service on the Fire Commission. And I just want to wish Ron Onofrio the best of luck serving on this commission.
And I would also like to thank Andy and wish him well. Andy's had some health issues, and I hope the best for him.
Yeah, Andy's a great guy. I agree. Ron, congratulations.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, is it all right if I just make a quick comment?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I appreciate it. I look forward to the opportunity to serve for the Fire Commission. And I just want to thank all the members of the council who have supported me in this. And I look forward to working with you guys.
Okay. Thanks.
So
Ron.
thank you very much.
Okay, next is appointment of Bruce Abelson, WPCA and Town Council, to replace Lou Paternoster.
Mr. Mayor, Joe Thornton, with the consent and permission of Bruce Abelson and the Democratic Town Committee, that appointment will be withdrawn.
Okay.
And if I could, Mr. Mayor, Marie,
Yes.
if I could speak up for a minute.
Yeah.
According to C2-6 of the charter for North Branford, you have 60 days in which to replace someone to fill a vacant seat. And I am requesting on behalf of the DTC that the town council give us some more time, allow us that. We probably won't use the whole 60 days, but we'd like some more time to go back to the DTC to look for another candidate.
Okay. We don't need a motion for that or anything, do we?
No.
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 Okay. That's, thank you. Thank you, guys, Joe and Marie. Thank you. All right. Next, we'll go into unfinished business, discussion and action. Report and recommendation from New England consultant to move to state system.
I believe Paul Zito is on the line with us.
Paul, you there?
I am here to answer any questions you might have.
Okay.
Paul, not to jump on anything, but can you give us a little update as where we are now?
The recommendation is to open discussions with the state on joining their system to cover deficiencies within the public safety communications community within the town of North Branford. We're looking to have an MOU signed by tonight by the selectmen so that we can hold discussions with the state to see if it's a viable option to pursue. There are concerns for the police department and the fire department that need to be addressed that the MOU will allow us to talk to the state to see how we can come up with a solution for these. That's basically it in a nutshell. This is not a commitment to join the state system as of yet. It's a commitment for the town to show good faith to the state that they are serious about joining the system. And if we can get some of the concerns addressed, and I don't think there are anything major that can't be addressed, but the state has, wants to know that the hierarchy of North Branford is on board with this before they'll proceed.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
it's Vin Marino, Town Attorney. I did look into the MOU and the issues of concern that I raised at the last meeting. I spoke to representatives from the state regarding the MOU and discussed my concerns with it was Mr. Gorka, and the MOU, he agreed from a draftsman's standpoint is not the best from an artfully drafted perspective because it does read as a binding commitment. However, there is no financial commitment through the MOU that would obligate the town, and should the town decide not to proceed after signing the MOU with the state system, the town could walk away. So it's in a sense, it's what I would refer to as a contract of adhesion, meaning that the state does not negotiate the terms of the contract. You're bound to accept it in its form, but the downside, should you not advance the state system, is not damaging to the town. So I have addressed my concerns and see no reason if it's the will of the body to proceed with executing the agreement.
Okay. Thank you, Vin.
Then, Mr. Mayor, Joe Fawnin, with the permission of the council, I would move to approve a non-binding execution of the MOU with the state of Connecticut, with the absolute right of the town to withdraw if in fact negotiations prove detrimental to the town.
Second.
Okay. Councilman Fawn and seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Any further discussion? Michelle, do a.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Next, we have review and approval of,
We just did that.
Oh, we did that, okay. All right, next is revised town council schedule and discussion on additional meetings for building projects. I don't know, does anybody have anything?
I think we can wait on this one until our next meeting, because there's really nothing that we have to decide right now, because we're still waiting to do the interviews for the architect for the high school and the police department. That is underway by the committee. They've been doing stuff, so I think if we need to wait for Mike Paulus to come back and explain some things on that, I think we have time at our next meeting to do that.
Okay.
So do you need to table that, or?
Yeah, I think we do.
Yeah, we would table.
Okay.
Motion to table?
Second.
Okay.
And who was that?
Joe Fawnin, sorry.
Thank you. Nope, no problem.
Okay, any further discussion? Can we have a vote, please?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay.
Okay, next we'll move into new business discussion and action. We've done A already. I'll move to B. Request to increase the purchasing bid threshold to $15,000.
Do we know where that came from?
I don't know.
There was something, sent from, I think, 2013, an original.
Well, according to the memo that's in our packet, so in 2013, that we changed the threshold, but the town council took the action to raise the threshold to 15,000 only for public works. And I guess it has worked very successfully at that time, and now they're looking to increase that to all departments. But I think we can discuss this at Finance Committee next week to see what this is about, and then bring it back at the December 15th meeting.
Yeah, I think we want Mike's input on this before we
Yeah.
vote.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't have a problem putting it on since it was Finance Committee originally back in 13, I don't have a problem. We meet next week, Finance Committee, to discuss it, and then we can bring it back to the council at the 15th, at our meeting on the 15th, if that's okay with everyone.
Sounds good.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
Do we need a motion to table it?
Yep.
Yeah, I think so.
I'll make a motion to table it.
Second.
Marie, that was you, Marie?
Yes.
Okay, so Tommy, Deputy Mayor Zampano, and Councilor Diamond. Any further discussion? Can we have a vote, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone would like to abstain? Okay, thanks.
No. Okay, next we'll move into capital improvement program. The first one is North Branford High School.
Okay, is Anthony there, Esposito?
Yep.
Can you just kind of go over this memo that's in our packet?
Certainly. There was another thing that was sent out today into the Dropbox. I'm not sure if you got it. Was the CIP was supposed to be in your packet. That's in Dropbox. And then there was also papers that came with how these numbers got calculated. What I used basically for the school was the last paperwork that Rusty had given us on the option 6. which showed a 66.24 million total cost. I then included in last time, the packet in November, that we had incurred about $1 million worth of short-term interest on the NBIS project. Again, this is going to be financed in various stages, not all in one shot. And there was additionally, issuance costs that I've estimated over the spans of the numerous bond issues we're going to have to do on all these projects. So when you add the 66.24 million, the roughly $1 million of short-term interest costs, again, this is purely an estimate, as is the 66.24 for that matter. 500,000 of issuance costs gives you a total of 67,740, and I rounded it to 67,750. To be 100% correct, when we put this into the CIP, we should put 42,890 into the bonding column and 24.860 into the grant column. That's going to be the school construction grant. Again, based on the estimate that Rusty had given us the last time on the option 6 building. So again, motion 1 addresses the school, the estimated cost as provided, estimate of short-term interest, estimate of issuance cost, and then the total comes out to the 67,750,000. And again, the number, recognize that this is the gross number when you do the bond resolutions, that you have to have the ability to spend the gross numbers. We're all aware the state's going to give us the 24 million, but when the bond issuance comes into play, or the bond resolutions, it has to list the gross amount of the project, just in case the state goes belly up 3 years from now, let's say. Who knows? So we have to have the authorization to spend the full 67,750. Doesn't mean we're going to spend 67,750. It means at the authorization level, and again, as the bids come in for the actual school construction, it could be higher or lower. As interest rates continue to decline, we may have maybe a little less interest cost. It's hard to say, but these are just estimates to get it into the CIP so we can get this thing going, send it out to Planning and Zoning for an 824 referral, and then come back and act on it on your second meeting in December. Again, this is not saying we're going to spend 67,750, but we have to authorize that level.
Yes, Anthony, the short-term estimated interest.
Yes.
$1 million, that's interest on the bands?
That is correct, sir. Yep, interest on the bands, on the one-year bands, correct.
And the issuance cost, which is normally rolled into the bond amount.
Correct.
Is in the building cost of 66,240. So you're.
I don't believe that cost is in the numbers as provided.
So you're adding it as an addition.
That is correct. Because in all these cases, I believe the numbers we provided was the construction aspect of it, not so much the issuance cost or the interest cost per se.
All right, so that's where you come up to 67,740.
Right, and I just rounded it to 750 just for the heck of it.
And the one thing I noted was you didn't say it was unremarkable.
Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. And again, this is not saying we're going to spend every dollar of this. Again, there could be, it could come in at 70 million to school. You don't know. We have to come back for an additional appropriation, or there could be a surplus appropriation when all is said and done. As you recall, back in the NBIS timeframe, we ended up having a surplus. We had money that we over-bonded. There was some legislation that worked in our favor from our state rep, and we ended up having some surplus cash that we used for other projects around town. So again, this is based on the best estimates given what Rusty provided and best estimates on interest and issuance costs.
All right, I'd like to make a motion, be it hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council votes to add a project entitled New North Branford High School to the 2020-21 Capital Improvement Plan at an amount of $67,750,000 funded by bonding.
Second.
Rose, if you can amend that just to say it's going to be 42,890 from bonding and 24,860 from state grant.
Okay, so I'll add to the motion that 42,890 will be done by bonding and 24,860 100,000 will be done by state grant.
Correct. And again, that's based on the estimates that Rusty had provided us.
Second.
I hate to be a fly in the ointment, Anthony, but why is the estimate of state funding substantially less than half the cost of the project?
I'm just going by the information that was provided to us by Rusty, and, you know, the state numbers, quite honestly, are kind of a little bit a guess, if you will, a little hocus pocus. They will nickel and dime you till the end. You know, they may promise you a percentage of 49%, but after they disallow, and, you know, you're probably gonna get down, you know, maybe 8 to 10% lower than what they actually state as the reimbursement rate. But again, the 24.86 came out of Rusty's report. And again, it's numerous factors. It's size. I believe, if I recall the conversation, that this size exceeded what was allowed. I think there's something about it as a space standard reduction. So again, it's not a flat percentage. There's a surplus of square footage in the proposed building, more than the state will allow, so that affects the reimbursement rate. And an estimate of the ineligible costs, which again, you never know until the final audit is done after all is said and done. You won't have final numbers on this probably for 5 or 6 years as to what the true cost of the town is.
And Joe, I remember, so our reimbursement rate is around 53%, 52, 53%. But on new construction, they automatically take 10% off of that. So we're starting at a reimbursement rate of around 42, 43%.
Great.
All right, motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any further discussion? We have a vote, Michelle?
Sure. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain? Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
The next item, the police department, the numbers are off of information I was given by Silver Petroselli, which shows construction cost as it sits now of $6,818,210, soft cost of $889,388, so that brings you to $7,707,598 for the building that's there going to be proposed currently, $7,707,598. There was also bid alternates that I think if we're going to do them, this is the time to do them. $300,000 for the separate building, for the additional police vehicles and evidence, things along that line. And the canopy, which originally was $125, it was heard at $150 at the last meeting. So when you take the $7,707,598, add the $300,000 for the separate building, add the $150 for the canopy, you're at the $8,157,598. Now again,
Are you including the grant in there?
No, this is the gross dollars.
Okay.
This is the gross dollars. Now you guys can choose not to do either of those bid alternates if that's your pleasure. I just put them in there because, in my opinion, it's the time to do them now. You do it once, do it right, versus you're never going to go back and do it again later. But that's your call if you want to go for the whole shooting match. And the same thing, so the 8,157,598, I've estimated $250,000 of short-term interest cost, $115,000 of issuance cost, gives you 8,522,598. Make it a nice pretty number, 8,525.
All right.
Does the motion have to include the grant? It was like 128,000 something?
Yeah, we could do that.
I mean, we did it on the high school, so
Yeah,
let's.
yeah.
Right, that's why I asked the question, why wasn't the grant included?
Yep, no, you could do that.
So, do you remember, it was 128 something?
You want to chair?
No, that's okay. I don't have the number in front of me, that's the only thing.
I think Rose is right. I think it was 128 on the button, wasn't it?
Well, no, there's some dollars, because it's
Yeah.
a steep grant. We got the max steep grant that it came out, but it was 128 and change.
Do you want me to pull up previous minutes?
Yeah, It should be in last meeting or
Yeah,
December.
because I think it was discussed there when we got.
it was 128 plus something. So why don't we just use the term, the maximum steep grant?
Allocated, okay.
Anthony?
Yep.
Just correct me or explain to me, if we approve this 8,525,000,
Yes.
we're not bound to that. We can back off that. For those of us that are choking on this number, it is what we choose to ultimately approve to be bonded. Is that correct?
That's correct, but I would say though, if you're gonna go down that path, if you don't wanna go down that path, I would make that decision now. You know, because it's.
Well, go ahead.
No, I just, if you have it in the CIP at an amount that everybody agrees to, then you're kind of buying into the process and all the additional ad alternates. So not that we're going out and spending the money tomorrow, but it does kind of signal that you want to go down a certain path.
Well, I just don't want to have to come back to it.
Well, that's true also too, yeah.
And so if bids, you know, I guess I would be more likely to go for the ad alternates if the bids for the project came in less than what we had anticipated, and it would make sense. If they come in more than what we had anticipated, we may want to rethink doing the ad alternates.
No, valid point. Yeah, you're 100% correct. This isn't locking you into any financial obligation yet. So you're right on track. You could opt out if the numbers come in against us. Definitely.
Okay.
Hey,
Statement, I'm good.
Hey, Bob, it's Tom. Hey, Anthony, where'd the 8157 come from? How did that grow from 7.5?
Well, 7.5 was a number that was given, you know, earlier in the conversation. As I had mentioned, the numbers that I had gotten from Silver Petroselli show a construction hard cost of $6,818,210, and then soft cost of $889,388. So walking in the door, if you want to say it that way, we're at $7,707,598 without the ad alternates.
Okay.
So your point is valid. The number that kicked around was $7.5 million, but that was preliminary, I want to call it. That wasn't actual, you know, numbers that came from the architect. And then the two ad alternates, again, $300,000. And, you know, the carport, again, I originally was given, it was $125. Last meeting, it was told to be $150, so I put $150 in. I'm not sure if anybody has additional information about that at all, but again, this is not saying we're going to spend this tomorrow, and you have the opportunity, as Councilor Angeloni mentioned, if the bids come in against us, you can opt maybe not to do them. It's up to you. But I just think it's now's the time to put them into the motion one shot and just get it done right. Just my opinion.
I have, the steep grant that was, referred to on November 10th was 128,205.
Beautiful.
Thanks, Michelle.
No problem.
Anthony.
Yes, sir.
Walter Goad here. How many square feet is that extra building at the police station?
Stand by. 2,000 square foot Butler building with minimal site preparation, 3 foot above ground foundation, walls, general building and lighting and heating, 3 overhead doors, 2 man doors.
Thank you.
So to go back to Councilor Angeloni, I would put of the 8,525 is the project amount, 8,396,795 would be the bonding, and then the 128,205 would be the grant column.
Marie, that's your motion?
I know.
I'm sorry, Maria.
Okay.
Eight-
Being here by
Step up.
votes at the project entitled New North Branford Police Station to the 2020-21 capital improvement plan at the amount of $8,525,000. Can you give me those numbers again,
Sure.
Anthony?
8,396,795 for bonding,
Okay, and 128
205 for grant.
for the grant. Funded by bond. I'm sorry.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Diamond, seconded by Councilor Angeloni. Any further discussion? Can we have a vote, Michelle?
With all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Okay,
Thank you.
The last one kind of follows the same logic. The number came out of the consultant's report, about a $5.5 million project. Again, estimated issuance cost, not that money interest cost, because it's going to be basically a couple of large purchases. As I understand it, the radios will be one purchase, and anything else might be a separate purchase, so it might not need that much short-term interest cost. And then about $45,000 of issuance cost, coming up to $5,645,000, rounded to $5,650,000. And if I follow the same logic we've been following, I don't have the number. Chief Seward, do you have that exact number of the grant offhand?
Anthony, on the Fire Act grant,
Roger.
so the Fire Act grant is totally independent. However, the award to the North Branford Fire Department is $536,287.
Okay.
Commissioner Palumbo cut out just for a second. Was that 536?
That was actually Chief Seward. It was
Oh, I'm sorry, Chief Seward.
536,287.
Okay, thank you.
So Anthony, on this motion,
Yep.
I know the grant is independent of the funding, but are we going to add it for the purposes of sending it over for an 824 referral? If we're doing the gross amount, does that 536 get added to the 5.65? Or do we just leave it at the 5.65?
I would defer to maybe Chief Seward or Chief Halloran. I thought it was 5.5, and then if you knocked off the 500, it came down to the 5 million that subcommittee had blessed, but I wasn't privy to those conversations. I don't know. Maybe Councilor Policia or Diamond remembers what the committee discussed. I don't remember.
Hey, Anthony?
Yes.
And for everybody's edification, what you gotta remember is that the federal grant is a 95%, 5% match.
Right.
So 5% is the town's responsibility. The remainder comes from the federal funds to pay the bill of the product.
Yeah, but Chief, the question is that grant taken into consideration before we get to 5.6, or is it a reduction off of the 5.6?
I would stretch my role here and say that's a question for Paul Zito.
And I would have to concur with Chief Seward on that.
But if you told us before there was $5.5 million estimated cost, less the $500,000 grant, I don't understand why it would not be a credit now.
Councilman Fawnin, it's Victor Peter Andrea.
Yeah, Victor.
It's $5 million for the communications, and the grant got added to it. So it is 5 million plus the grant added.
Okay, so the grant is a credit. So we're proposing the bond 5,650. It would be less what we get from the grant, which is $500-something thousand.
That was my understanding when the committee voted on it, and we all agreed to it.
But are we saying that there's still 5% of that grant is a requirement of the town? Is that in the 5 million?
No, it is not.
Well, wait a minute. No, we're approving the entire cost, Marie. So
Yeah.
yes,
Yes,
Well,
it would,
but I'm asking if that's part of the 5 million, or is there an add-on to that?
This is Councilor Policia. I have a question for Paul Zito. Without going into too much detail here tonight, there's been some issues with some radios recently that could potentially add some additional cost to the town. Should we take into consideration additional costs from your initial quote for these purposes, or do you think we'll be covered?
Well, the initial number that was provided is a rough order of magnitude number. That's part of So the procedure, what we have to do here is sit down with the state and configure the system and get some of our questions answered. And then the next step after that is to, this purchase will be done on the state contract, off the master contract. And we have to have Motorola come out and actually give us a nut and bolt down to the penny price on what the system will cost. So that $5.5 million is just a rough order of magnitude. It's an educated guess. I'm confident that it's pretty close, but typically what happens in these systems is, you know, suddenly things get added to it. Could the committees approve this change, that change? So I'm comfortable with the number. What you're referring to with radios is really a grant issue at this point, or a grant requirement. I wouldn't call it an issue. If the radios aren't purchased today or in the very near future, Motorola is offering a discount for the radios. It's an end of the year purchase special that they're running, actually. We can defer that purchase of those radios and try to roll it into the purchase of the radio system along with the rest of the subscriber units. But the issue that we run into is that the grant, the radios have to be operational and out, I'm going to say August 1st. Basically, we say August, and that's really cutting it close. So knowing the way that the state moves, knowing the way that Motorola moves, it's really a throw the dice type thing as to, do we buy the radios now and preserve the grant, or do we take a chance and put the grant at risk? We can buy the radios today and have to what we call flash upgrade them, buy more options for them to work on the state system, if indeed we do go on the state system. We can wait and buy the radios all configured and save a considerable amount of money. There's labor involved and whatever, but basically it's really a grant thing. Does the board, or I guess it would be the fire commissioners or the communications or whatever, but do they want to take the chance on the grant and have to buy the radios at the end of the buying, or at the end of the grant cycle, or do you just do it now and it's pay for the upgrade later?
But you don't anticipate that any issues along those lines will inflate the number higher than 5.5 million?
I think that, again, that's just a rough order of magnitude number. I think that the exposure that we have here is the labor that's involved and a percentage of increase in price. If you buy the radio as a package with all the options in it, it's X amount of money, and it's about 15 or 20% higher plus labor. Probably about 20% higher plus labor if you do it later on, because you're buying it piecemeal. You're not buying it as a package. So will it inflate the price? Probably. But then there's other things that could inflate the price. We could get a price from Motorola for this that's a fire sale, and we might be giving back money. All I can say is that the $5.5 million we came up with, based on the current subscriber unit population and the system configuration that we have, should be enough.
Okay, thank you.
Ron, it's Victor Peter Andrea. The upgrade, the grant and the radios, if we buy them now, and they should just get purchased now, just to get it over with. And the upgrade is 79 units at $2,000 a unit. So if you want to be safe, the council could add $160,000 in there, since the radios might be ordered or might not be ordered, to cover yourselves, because the flashing and upgrade is approximately $2,000, which we have in writing. Per unit, 79 units, roughly 160,000.
Anthony, what's your recommendation? Should we include it and bump up the number, or are we safe with the 5.5? I just want to make sure we're as accurate as possible here.
Well,
But it's the same thing with the high school and the police station. They're estimated numbers, and we might have to bond more money, or
you might need an additional appropriation. You're 100% right. You can do additional appropriations in next year's CIP if you find, in time for the budget that the numbers are wrong. You do an additional appropriation to the project. We did that, done that in the past several times as well. So again, it's your best guess as of today. I haven't seen a budget, what makes up the 5.5, how much is the radios versus everything else. So I trust Paul's judgment that, it's 5.5, but then to go to the commissioner's point, if you're going to incur 160,000 of additional costs, kind of goes back to the police station logic. Let's do it once and do it right.
But we don't know that for sure, because we don't know, first of all, if the PO that was originally cut, there's a lot of different things going on out there. Has it been stopped? Is it put on hold? We have to decide, are we gonna go through with it, or are we gonna take our chance, as it was just discussed? Are we gonna roll the dice and take our chance and order this all together with everything else? Because then you don't have the $160,000.
Hey, Bob, it's Tom. A question to Paul Zito. From simple dollars and cents, what is the best way to make this purchase? Do we buy the radios now, or do we buy them later on? It must be a simple arithmetic that we can put together and say yay or nay.
I really think the answer has to do with exposure. Your exposure right now is up to $160,000, and your risk of not buying them now is $500,000. So I would say that I know that Motorola will still hold the price that they quoted for the radios. I think that I'd rather deal with money in the bank than roll the dice, to be honest with you.
Mr. Mayor, this is Bill Seward.
Okay.
Hey, Bob, we have a gentleman that's in on the meeting, Jack Ahern, and I think it would be beneficial for the members of the council that are present to hear what he has to say.
Jack, you there?
I am. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
Councilman. Yep, my name is Jack Ahern, as Chief said. Some of you may know me. I know I'm well aware of your police chief. We worked for many years together. I've been with the current Motorola vendor. We are called Norcom. We are the largest Motorola vendor in Connecticut. I've been with them for 6 years. Prior to that, I was the fire chief in Branford, so kind of know what goes on in the North Branford Fire Department also. The chief contacted me some time ago in reference to a grant that he received. Prior to the talk about possibly going to the state or not, he expressed to me that one of his concerns is the communications that he presently has and the difficulty he's having with that. As an ex-fire chief, I can tell you there are 3 things that a fire chief absolutely has to have for his firefighters, and that is personal protective equipment, the fire gear that you guys spend a lot of money on every year. He also has to have SCBA, self-contained breathing apparatus, and communications. Those are probably the 3 most important items that a firefighter going inside a burning building has to have. And it's my understanding that your current portable radios are somewhat deficient in that area. And that's not something that personally I think a firefighter should have to put up with. The chief, that's a phenomenal grant that he obtained. Anything above $500,000 in a AFG grant is a phenomenal accomplishment. The AFG program started shortly after 9/11, and it has steadily decreased ever since then, to the point where there's not a lot of money available. And for a town to be able to get $500,000, somebody wrote a very good grant, and I don't even know if the chief wrote it. He didn't tell me. So the next issue was, as we progressed in our discussions about the portable radios, was the fact that you may, as Paul has said, you may go on the Connecticut Land Mobile Radio Network system, which, by the way, Norcom does currently maintain and install. So, you know, we have a lot of knowledge with it. It's a great system, and I wouldn't steer you one way or the other. I just couldn't do that. Paul is the guy to listen to, without a doubt. But what, you know, what do we do about portable radios in the meantime? And I understand your dilemma. But the chief also has a dilemma immediately of needing portables. So what he asked me is, can we get a portable that would be compatible with the state system? And the simple answer is yes. We can get portables that will work on, for now, what I'll term as your legacy system. And that is the system that you're currently working on. So we can get them a portable that can work on that system. And yeah, I'll use an analogy of buying a car with my daughter. She buys a car and it doesn't have GPS, but it's capable of GPS. She has to pay an extra $700 and they stick a card in it and she now has GPS in the vehicle. That's what may need to happen if you go on the state system. The radios that the chief is proposing to buy, you would have to reprogram them with features, and the features are just it's a license agreement with Motorola, so that they would have the features to work on that state system. So we were able to do that. We were able to give him radios that will work on the state system, and probably even more importantly too, is all of the current mutual aid partners that you currently have, including East Haven, which in the next 4 or 5 weeks, Norcom is installing a new radio system for them, and they are going digital. Once they go digital, the chief will have no communications with them. So North Haven is digital, Branford is digital. So having those capabilities will be in those radios, and having the capabilities of talking to all of your mutual aid partners will be there too. So I think I've rambled on enough. If anybody has any questions for me, feel free to ask.
Jack, it's Mike Duty. I have a question for you.
Absolutely, Mike.
Okay. If we need a couple radios to get us by we finalize the state system, and then we're not spending $2,000 per unit to flash up all the radios, why can't we do that? Paul, another question to you is, when are we going to have an idea on the 800 system?
Well, now that you've approved signing the MOU with the state, I actually am in the process of sending an email now that is requesting a meeting with them so that we can move this forward. I would think that I'm waiting for Chief Halloran and Chief Seward to give me a list of, I think, concerns and requirements for the system above and beyond what we've addressed so far, so that we can go to the state and we can sit down with them and say, you know, how do you handle this situation? How do you handle this? I'm thinking that probably in the next 60 days or so, we should be able to make a decision.
And I personally, you know, from what I see or what I feel, these new Motorola radios are not gonna improve the VHF system any more than it is now.
In all likelihood, they will not.
So we're kind of jumping the ball here, jumping through a few hoops that we shouldn't be jumping through until we get a final design or close to a final design. And then we could put that 800 frequency right in our new radios that we're buying.
You could, but, you know, I used to sit in the state seat back in my prior life. And when we asked Motorola for pricing, and this is Motorola corporate, not Norcom, when we asked them for pricing, sometimes we'd get it back in 6 weeks. Other times we got it back in 6 months. So I can't sit here and confidently tell you that we'll have a price and we'll be able to buy the system in the next 6 months. It just doesn't work that way. I can tell you that, you know, we can move ahead after our concerns are answered and ask Motorola to give us a price. They bring people in from all over the country to you know, engineers, and they look at our antenna loading on towers and things like that. So, you know, when they give us a price, there's no surprises afterwards. I go back to my original comment that I made is, you know, if I've got to spend 160 to get 500,000, I'm still ahead.
Okay.
Councilman Felicia, Jack Ahern, I just have a quick question for you, please.
Yes, sir.
I was just curious, once an order is placed for radios, because these don't have to be operational until August of 2021, once an order is placed for radios, what's the general turnaround time as far as getting those radios out to the town?
About 4 to 6 weeks.
I will tell you that if you order those radios today, it's the end of the year. Motorola's a publicly traded companies. Those will be in-house before Christmas.
I would agree with that, Paul.
They want to show them as a sale on this year, not next year.
So here's the thing, just to go along with what Paul is saying, and Mike, to kind of answer your question, the risk of waiting until August.
No, I don't want to wait that long, Jack.
I understand.
We have a design and we have a frequency number we could put in most of those radios. I have no problem with the chief ordering the radio tomorrow. I have no problem with the deputy chief ordering the radio tomorrow, or some first line officers. But I can't see us ordering 76 radios that we're going to have to pay $2,000 per radio to flash up in 8 months.
But that's the issue. See that? Let's just say you buy 10 now.
That's where this grant haunts us now.
It does haunt you, because after Friday, Motorola will no longer honor the price. You'll go back up to the regular state contract pricing, and that would hold all the way through until you have to actually sign a PO with Motorola to get the additional discount. And, you know, just my personal opinion, this is not a Norcom opinion, it's not a Motorola opinion, is that would be highly unlikely by August. And the grant parameters, we just barely were able to get the 79 radios. See, he has to buy 79 radios in that grant. He can't buy 50 and put those 50 on the state system because, you know, or put those features in it. He has to show that the AFG that he bought 79 radios.
This is Councilor Zampiano. This question's for Jack or Paul or both. Do we have the option to buy the radios fully complete with all the bells and whistles that we may need? Why don't we do that?
You do, but then if you don't go with the state system, you're spending money that you don't need to spend. And if you do, let's just say you do, you're going to have to come up with a lot more money to buy 79 radios right now.
Well, yeah, but if it's if we're buying, if the 79 radios was to spend all of the grant money, we get it with all the bells and whistles, as the deputy mayor has asked about, that number, that 79 might go down because now of the increased cost, but to use up the grant money.
But the grant parameter will say that you have to buy 79.
Chief,
Well, my point is, Paul, question to you, this is Councilor Zampano again. What do you, in your estimation, what do you think the risk is that we don't go with the state system?
Well, we have two outstanding issues that make me nervous on that, to be honest with you. We have up on Parsonage Hill Road, we have an unsigned, or we don't have a written agreement with the tower owner. And we still have to find a location to probably put another site up in the north end of town, whether it's on a building or a telephone pole or whatever. That hasn't been addressed yet. That's one of the concerns that I have with the state is, do we need something up there, which I'm fairly sure we do, and if we do, how high does it have to be and what location does it have to be in? And we go through the state, Motorola will tell us where to put that.
Okay, so
you know, if I had my druthers, I would just buy the radios all configured and ready to go, to be honest with you.
That's my concern.
I mean, what's the price difference between it with the two? I don't know if I'm using the proper terms, but with the 2 bands or the 3 bands, what's the difference in price?
Well, Jack, I don't think he'd be able to answer that tonight, but it's not just adding the band, it's adding feature sets to each radio to work on the state system. And as of right now, we don't have permission to go on the state system. The MOU gets us most of the way there, but.
Okay. Because then my next question is, I think Jack had mentioned that once East Haven goes digital, we will not be able to communicate with East Haven. But he also stated that North Haven and Branford are also on digital. So I guess I have to make the assumption that we cannot communicate with any of them.
Branford currently has they also have a analog channel 2 that North Branford uses now.
Okay, I mean.
But you're right, North Haven and East Haven, Chief, I don't believe you'll have capability for, is that correct?
Yes, Jack, you're absolutely right. And I think I need to add some very critical information here. So everybody's got to realize that the 2019 Assistance to Firefighters Grant application period started February and March of this past year. So if you recognize the fact that earlier I said you're dealing with apples and oranges here, and that is the grant application to replace our existing radios that are no longer supported by the manufacturer was the focus of the grant application. Now you also need to know that I filed a similar request to start replacing radios with an application back in 2015, which was not approved. Again, in 2018, and again, the federal grants are a year behind the calendar year. Again, in 2018, I applied for and did not receive a grant to, again, start to replace radios. Our existing radios were actually purchased with an Assistance to Firefighters grant back in 06 and 07. So you got to keep in mind that to date, between 2004 and present, we've acquired $1.423 million in AFGs for equipment that is critical to the fire department's operation. It's not equipment that we liked, but it's equipment that was a must. But more important to that is the fact in 2008, 2009, 2015, 2016, 2017 and 2018, our grants were rejected. That totaled $1.8 million in requests. So this is actually the third application to request radios to be replaced. And it was predicated upon using our existing system, using multiple band radios that would give us the advantage to talk to our mutual aid partners that went digital. So again, this is a reoccurring project that has been long-standing, and the grants are very competitive. Like Chief Ahern said, we're limited on how much money can actually be given from the Grant Reauthorization Act to, we're considered a combination fire department. We are not a volunteer fire department in the federal's eyes. So of the total amount that's awarded to the Fire Assistance to Firefighter Grant Program, 25% or less is actually earmarked for combination or paid on call. And as Jack said, to write the grant is so comprehensive and time consuming. And it's predicated upon a self-evaluation tool. It's predicated upon meeting the Assistance to Firefighters Grant core capabilities of the National Preparedness Goal. It's based upon the International Association of Firefighters, National Volunteer Fire Council, the Congressional Fire Service Institute, the National Fallen Firefighters Radio Communication Project for the Fire Service, not to mention a SafeCom guide by United States Department of Homeland Security, notwithstanding mentioning ISO, NFPA, and OSHA. So when you submit an application, it goes through an electronic scoring, it goes through multiple peer review panels before a federal award is provided. So for the replacement of the radios, it has taken 3 tries in this very competitive grant application to get to this point. And it was based on replacing radios that are no longer supported to work on our existing system. It just so happens that after the grant was submitted, the town opted to look at its own communication system and hire a consultant. So you're looking at 2 independent projects that some are working one into another. Please, for the firefighter safety, you got to keep these separate.
Yeah. Chief, it's Ron from the council. I just have a quick question. In the grant, is it specifically for radios, or is any of the other hardware that we may have to need to purchase for the new system, would any of that stuff that supports the radios also be applicable in the grant?
So the exact words in the grant application, Ron, and that's a good question. The exact words in the application are for multi-band portable radios, remote speaker mic, 2 batteries per radio, desktop chargers, carrying case, carrying strap. You can only spend it on that, nothing else.
Thank you.
Chief, this is Rose. This is Councilor Angeloni. Does the grant say how many radios we have to buy?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The grant, and that goes back to the grant application, and FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency that administers the Assistance to Firefighters Grant Program, by authorizing the grant, says I must buy 79 radios.
Okay.
Chief Ahern is exactly correct. There's no way to split it. There's no way to appeal to them. It's a done deal.
Okay. My other question is, out of the grant money, the 536,287, so that's the total grant, and out of that, the town has to come up with a 5% share, or the 5% is on top of that?
No, it's a 5%. So I think the federal side is like 510, and 24 and change is on the town side. And every other grant that we have been awarded, to the best of my knowledge, and Anthony could support this, the 5% match has always come out of contingency.
That's true.
Chief Ahern.
Yes, sir.
Say one of these radios are lost or stolen, you have the ability to lock them out, right?
that's kind of a console thing. I don't believe your current console would be capable of that. However,
Only be on the state system, Jack.
if on the state system, you absolutely would, yes.
Okay, so that could interfere with the police or fire or other towns that are on this radio system. Do we know what frequencies or what towns are gonna be on, our radios are gonna be capable of reaching?
Yeah, so well, actually, Paul, why don't you describe that better than?
I'm not 100% sure I understand the question, but it's really no different than the way you do business today.
Right.
You have your surrounding towns that are programmed into both the police and the fire radios where appropriate. So
Yeah. You actually, Mike, you get added coverage, so to speak, depending upon, and this is something you would work out with the state, which towers they allow you to use. So first they concern themselves with the towers that are going to cover North Branford. Sometimes, like let's say a Troop F tower covers part of North Branford, you will then technically have all of Troop F's area as a coverage area.
Right. That's my only concern was why are we getting a 3-band radio system?
for mutual aid purposes more than anything.
Yeah, because you got Cheshire on VHF, you've got Branford, North Haven, East Haven on UHF. You guys are on VHF currently, so yeah, it really, Mike, we tell everybody to buy tri-band radios now for mutual aid purposes, to be NIMS compliant, the whole 9 yards.
I have a question for Chief Seward or for Jack Ahern. Did this quote for the the 76 portables include the XE speaker microphones, and did they include the digital option in them?
It did, and it did.
Okay.
This is Councilor Zampano again. Chief Seward, I appreciate the detail. I was just trying to search for the needle in the haystack that possibly, if we bought them all completed, even though it may cost more money, it may be less costly long term, but evidently it doesn't quite work. It's not that easy.
Yeah, Tommy, that's a good question. And I had a conversation with, I still call him Chief Ahern today. The problem would be is that if we opted to first fulfill my obligation to the Fire Act grant and purchase 79 radios that were programmed to frequencies that we don't even know we're going to have yet, it would exceed the cost and the parameters of the Fire Act grant.
But Chief, we could add money to that, couldn't we?
You can add anything to the Fire Act grant, yes.
Well, that's all I was trying to kind of investigate. Would it be long term? Would that be cheaper to try to do it now versus later? And it's just a question. I don't know. You fellas are the experts, and I'm not. That's why I was asking.
Mr. Zampano, that's an excellent question, and it is possible that you could, so to speak, approve more money and add the features in tonight, but that complicates things by, so everything has to be reviewed by the state, and by the time you're ready to go on the system, they may or may not require a feature that you need or don't need. What do I mean by that? I currently have a customer that they purchased radios, and the state then said, oh, you know what, you needed this other feature in it. So we had to get flashes for them after the fact to put that one feature back in the radio. One of the things that you'll be looking at in the state system is what kind of portable coverage will the state afford you? What kind of portable coverage will you have? And if it's not sufficient to cover in buildings, let's say, And it may or may not be, I can't say at this point. So that may mean that you need to buy vehicle repeaters for the fire trucks. It's an unknown right now. But if you do have to buy them, that's a feature in the radio that has to be put in to be able to operate properly on those repeater devices on the fire apparatus. So it's a very complicated question, but you know, I think you're doing the right thing in looking at meeting the grant parameters and getting a radio that is completely compatible with whatever is needed, whether or not you go with the state system or not.
So,
Okay, thank you.
So, Jack, you bring up a good point, and I'm going to go back to Paul Zito. And this becomes a hypothetical situation. And I know, Paul, we talked about this the other day in our beginning of our weekly conversations with Chief Holleran. So hypothetically, if the state system, if all the stars aligned, Paul, and we were to get onto the state system, and we needed mobile repeaters, is the cost of the repeater that's recommended for the system built into your cost?
It is not. We might be able to etch out a couple, but not, they, as an overall statement, no, they are not.
Okay.
Again, we don't know what the system's going to cost us based on what the state requires, and Motorola will charge us at this point.
One last question, Paul. There was some talk about, I guess the current discount on the radios is about 4.5%, give or take. Is there any, do you see any way that we purchase the radios down the road, fully set up, and, or once we know from the state exactly what the requirements are going to be for the radio, so we know exactly what we're going to need, and if it does require flash up, or if it requires, we order them that way, is there any larger discount that you would recommend? Because I know there's been talk of a higher discount that would possibly offset that other price that we might have to come up with later on. Because I understand we have to meet the grant now and the 79 radios and the dollar amount, but this town's still going to be on the hook for a flash up later on for like $160,000. I'm just thinking, is there some sort of other discount we can take advantage of that could possibly offset that $160,000?
So, Paul, I just want to interject before you answer that, is that...
Let me just make one comment first, Jack.
Sure.
That
Okay.
4% came from me, and it is incorrect. And I think Jack can tell you what the overall discount was. Again, it's a fire sale because it's the end of the year to get the order book. So go ahead, Jack.
No, so it's just, the state contract price is 25% off, so you got that, and you get an additional almost 5% off. But I've also been told, and I have no reason to doubt it, Motorola has committed to me that they will give you the 29.5% on the flashes should you go that way. So the $2,000 figure that we're giving you is worst case scenario, and it will probably be much better than that.
I really appreciate that, guys. I'm just looking to save money, that's all.
Understandable, absolutely.
Comes out to about $1,400 a radio then.
I have no more questions. Thanks. Thanks, Paul. Thanks, Chief.
Okay, Anthony, so I took the numbers, so how do you want us to do this motion? Do you want us to do like we did on the other ones, how much is bonding and how much is grant funded?
Yeah, I pulled up the email on the grant. The grant is $510,750. 510,750. So if you make the total price the 5,650,000, knock off the 510,750, the bond amount will be 5,139,250.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to make the motion, be it hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council votes to add a project entitled New Townwide Emergency Communication System to the 2020-21 Capital Improvement Plan at an amount of $5,139,250 funded by bonding and $510,750 funded by grant.
Second.
So, this is, Counselor Zampano. I have, one question on that value. Does that, would that cover the additional, I think, Paul might have just said 1,400 per radio to finalize if we ever got to that point? So that would be about 110,000. So is that covered in this?
No. But it's the same, the way I look at it, it's the same as the high school and the police department. If we're under money, when it goes out to, when Motorola comes in with the prices, it gets put in there. If we need additional funding, we, like Anthony said, we can add it to next year's CIP.
All right, I'm just asking the question. Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion, by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Fornin, I believe it was.
It was,
Okay, thank you. Thanks, Joe. Any further discussion? Michelle, can we have a vote?
With all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle.
Mayor Walter Goode, can I have the floor for a second?
Yeah, go ahead, Walt, sure.
Anthony, what's the grand total of all of those together?
I think it was 81,925.
Thank you.
Responding. 570 Village Street, across Woodville and Cricket.
All right, next we have motion to refer, 8-24 referral to planning and zoning.
I'll make a motion, be it hereby resolved that the North Branford Town Council instructs the Treasurer Finance Director to forward the CIP plan to the Planning and Zoning Commission for their review pursuant to Connecticut General Statute 8-24 and bring it back to this body upon receipt of their action.
Second.
Okay, motion was made by Councilor Angeloni, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any further discussion? Can I have a vote, Michelle?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstain?
All right, next we have citizen statements and petitions.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say something.
Sure, go ahead.
Sure. I'd like to actually echo the thoughts of Marie Diamond earlier. You accepted the resignation of Andy Campion from the Board of Fire Commissioners and his replacement, Ronnie Onofrio. We're all familiar with Ronnie. He was a great asset in the town of North Branford, opted to move on, is still involved in law enforcement. And I think he'll be a great asset to the committee. But I want everybody to know about Andy Campion. And I have to apologize if I seem a little upset. Because I met Andy Campion when I entered the New Haven Fire Department in 1978. From 1978 to 1985, I worked through various positions, firefighter, paramedic, in the fire department, was assigned in various houses. And in 1985, I was asked to take a position in the training academy as a training officer. And Andy was a training officer at the academy as well. He started at the academy in 1984. And I worked with Andy between 1985 and 2008. And I don't think there's a person around, in this town anyways, that knows Andy like I do. And Andy was a wealth of knowledge to the Board of Fire Commissioners. And there's a lot of things about Andy that you don't really know about. He's had a challenging life. He has a special needs child that is absolutely fabulous. He has a daughter who has a family. And Andy has dedicated his life to both firefighting, emergency services, and helping those with special needs. He was so integral working with those with special needs and the Connecticut Special Olympics over the years. It's really amazing. And to see Andy go through what he is today, it's so difficult. So, echoing Marie Diamond's thoughts, I truly wish Andy the best of luck and best of health in the years to come. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks, Chief. Okay. Anthony, you have anything?
Negative.
Okay, so we'll, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Did you get that, Michelle?
Sure did.
Okay. All done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, I won't even bother asking if anyone's opposed.
Thanks for coming.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Night, everyone.
Thanks, Michelle.
Stay well.